Hi everyone, it's Kerry back here for History 2304A. This is being recorded on the 11th of October 2021. I hope you're having a very good Thanksgiving weekend, and I hope that, like you have, like myself, I should say, you have a great deal of things for which to be thankful. I know that I am, and I hope that you are as well. And I hope that you're enjoying the year, and I hope that the course is going well for you. Um, the purpose of this lecture is primarily to discuss the primary source assignment that has just been sent to you by email and put up on the announcement section of the Brightspace page. You'll see that first and foremost that the date has been changed. From the due date has been changed from November 1st to the 7th of November. I was late getting this up on the website, so my apologies, and as a way to compensate, I've pushed back the due date. There's a set of instructions that are provided, and in addition to the instructions that are provided, there are some samples. There are some examples of primary sources that you can use in order to get this assignment accomplished. Now, those ones were picked at random. I just picked the 5th of October out of the top of my head and just picked some selected days and then just some selected pages from the Ottawa Citizen. You can get copies of those pages by just opening up the attachments, or you can go into the Carleton Library site yourself and go to the database section. And in the database section under O, you'll find the Ottawa Citizen, and you can do a search under a keyword or a date and find one for yourself. There's also under the T section papers such as the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail. They call the Globe and Mail under T. I think because of Toronto, but you can get either the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star. So if you're not really happy with the Ottawa Citizen, you can use the Star or the Globe. I focused on newspapers this time for primary sources. I mean, there are all kinds of primary sources that you have access to in the comfort of your home. Military records, census records, and so on and so forth. But I want to keep this as concise as possible. And one of the things that you'll see when you start opening up newspapers from the past is that they provide you with some insights into the culture of the time that produced those kinds of newspapers. So for the journalism students, for the historians, for the social scientists, hopefully you'll get some insights into what was considered to be important, what was considered to be relevant at that time, but also the contemporary attitudes, the attitudes of the people, or the attitudes that people were trying to propagate at that time. So those are some of the things that you should keep in mind when you're looking at these pages. And the other thing that I'd like to just emphasize is that historians use these things. Now, this is where I'm going to give you some hints in terms of the assignment. You'll see a very small rubric contained in the assignment, but what are historians looking for? Well, as I mentioned, what they're looking for is to get some sorts of insights into the attitudes and the beliefs and the determination of what was considered relevant during the time that they're studying. And so you have newspapers as a source of evidence for that. You can look at that and say, well, look at this is a newspaper article from the 5th of October 1957, and it talks about this, this, and this. But historians have to make sure that what they're reading isn't an anomaly. So one of the things in terms of additional materials that would make these the material you're looking at more relevant or more rewarding would be to say the historian would have to look and see, are these the same attitudes that are, say, captured in a rival newspaper, or are these the same attitudes that were mentioned in a previous edition, a later edition, and are these also evident in other forms of contemporary mass culture? So, I mean, one of the things that historians would look at would be to make sure that what they're looking at there as their evidence was not a one-off, that it was part of a general trend and a general attitude. And you can get that from other primary sources, or you can get that from secondary sources. If you look at history of newspapers from the 1950s, if you look at cultural history from the 1950s, are these attitudes consistent with what you're seeing on the page? So that's one thing that you should be looking for. Just to help you, I think at one point in the assignment it says, what else would be helpful for an historian looking at this page? So the value added would be finding evidence that supports it or contradicts it. So that's one thing. The other thing is that historians look for context. They look for putting those things into that into some kind of meaningful context. So if you see an article on X, it's because all these other things are going around. So, for example, in if you look at one of the newspapers, I think cites the Sputnik launch. Well, the Sputnik launch was significant in its own right from a scientific perspective, but what else is going on during that time? Well, there's the Cold War, and it's the Soviets, it's the Soviet Union that launches the first artificial moon. There's your context. Why is this important? Well, it's important in its own right for science, but it's also important because of the fact that it's part of the space race that's part of the Cold War. You can put those things into a larger context. At any rate, have a look at the pages. If you and the other thing I should mention, so in addition to the databases at the Carleton Library, which have the Toronto Star, the Toronto Globe and Mail, and the Ottawa Citizen, there are many pages that have local newspapers. I think one of them is Our Ontario, OUR Ontario, and they have a lot of newspapers. So if you are from St. Catharines and you look and there's a newspaper from St. Catharines and you want to look at that, that's by all means fine. The Mississippi Textile Museum, Mississippi Mills Textile Museum in Almont, just outside of Ottawa, contains the complete run of the Almont Gazette. So if you're from the Valley, there's a nice newspaper to look at. Have fun with it. Hopefully you're able to use this in the context of other history classes that you're taking or other social sciences classes. So you can certainly do it in to hopefully supplement what you're looking at. And I also hope that you're able to draw from your other courses to help you inform this. So at one point I think I mentioned in there, you're free to consult secondary sources. So if you're looking, say, at a context piece and you're looking at the Cold War, there's piles of material written on the Cold War that will help you appreciate the page that you're looking at. Or if you've happened to encounter other ideas that you've heard in other lectures that would talk about the subject under consideration, feel free to use that. You do not have to, okay? You do not have to cite any other sources than the primary source. But if you do, that certainly doesn't hurt your case, and that can only help. So think about that. Think about the level of effort. Look at this assignment in the context of the overall mark for the course, and hopefully you'll be able to, that'll help you steer in terms of how much level of effort you're going to be putting into this. At some point in the very near future, this as I say is being done on the 11th of October, I will be assigning you to either myself or the teaching assistant, Natalie, and that should be coming up soon, and you should see an announcement or an email to that effect. Please keep in touch. Please take really good care of yourselves. I know that this is a year unlike any other, like the year before. And I don't know if you're on campus or if you're just doing this completely online, but in either case, I hope that this course has been rewarding, and I hope that your whole experience at Carleton has been rewarding. And I hope that at some point we can all meet on campus. But in the meantime, as you know, Natalie's arranging for some live sessions, and we will be talking to you then, I hope. Again, completely optional, but if you want to take part, by all means, feel free to do so. Take good care of yourselves and enjoy the week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.